Captain Jake Morrison stood at the viewport of the human ship, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. His hands were clasped behind his back, but his fingers twitched slightly. He was nervous, though he would never admit it out loud. The station was called Calith Prime. It floated in neutral space, halfway between human territory and the Varian Empire. For 3 long years, humans and Varians had been at war. Thousands had died on both sides. Now, finally, there was a chance for peace. "We're almost there, Captain," said Commander Ben Carter from behind him. Ben was a large man with short brown hair and a scar on his left cheek. He had been with Jake through many battles. "The Varians are already docked on the other side of the station." Jake nodded slowly. He had seen Varians before, but only in combat. They were humanoid creatures with silver skin that looked almost metallic. Their eyes were completely black, without any white parts. They moved in strange, fluid ways that made humans uncomfortable. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know what you were thinking before you said it. "Are we ready?" Jake asked. Dr. Lisa Hayes stepped forward. She was a slim woman with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She wore glasses and carried a tablet computer everywhere she went. Lisa was their expert on alien biology and culture. She had spent the last 6 months studying everything known about the Varians. "As ready as we can be," Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "I need to brief you one more time on their customs." Jake turned away from the viewport. Behind him, the station had grown so large it filled the entire window. "Go ahead," Lisa tapped her tablet. "The Varians value emotional honesty above everything else. They are telepathic, which means they can sense feelings and sometimes thoughts. Lying to them is not just rude. It's considered a serious offense." "What if we accidentally think something negative?" asked Lieutenant Kevin Brooks, the youngest member of their team. He looked worried. "Andy, Dunty, 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 Dunty. They understand that thoughts come unbidden," Lisa explained. "What matters is your intention. If you genuinely want peace, they'll sense that." She paused. "There's something else. We just received word about who they're sending to negotiate." Jake raised an eyebrow. "I thought we were meeting with their military commanders." "We were supposed to," Lisa said. "But there's been a change. The Varian Empress has sent her daughter instead." The room fell silent. Ben whistled low. "Their princess? Why would they risk sending royalty?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't know. It's unusual. According to our intelligence, Varian royalty almost never leave their homeworld. They're considered too valuable. Their princesses are trained from birth as empaths, which means they can sense emotions even more strongly than regular Varians." Jake felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "So she'll know everything we're feeling?" "Yes," Lisa confirmed. "But it also means she might understand our desire for peace more clearly than anyone else. This could actually help us." The ship shuddered slightly as it docked with the station. A voice came over the intercom, announcing their arrival. Jake straightened his uniform and looked at his team. There were only 5 of them making this trip. Besides Jake, Ben, Lisa, and Kevin, there was also Sergeant Maria Lopez, a tough woman who served as their communications officer. "Remember," Jake said, "we're here to end a war. Whatever happens in that conference room, we stay calm and we stay honest. Understood?" Everyone nodded. They gathered their materials and headed for the airlock. The station's atmosphere mixed with their ship's air as the doors opened. Jake took a deep breath and stepped through. Calith Prime was beautiful in a cold, mechanical way. The corridors were wide and made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's. Alien plants in tall containers lined the walls, their purple leaves swaying gently despite no visible wind. A delegation of station officials met them. The leader was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and green skin. It spoke through a translation device that hung around its neck. "Welcome, humans," it said in a flat, mechanical voice. "I am Administrator Quellen. The Varian delegation awaits you in Conference Chamber 7. Please follow me. I am Ender, Varian, D." They walked through the station in silence. Other aliens watched them pass. Some looked curious, others hostile. Jake kept his expression neutral, and his eyes forward. After 10 minutes of walking, they reached a set of massive doors. They were made of dark blue metal and covered in symbols Jake didn't recognize. "The princess is inside," Quellen said. "You may enter when ready. I must warn you. There are unusual energy readings coming from the chamber. The Varians assure us this is normal." "What kind of energy readings?" Lisa asked, pulling out a small scanner. "Electromagnetic fluctuations," Quellen replied. "Nothing dangerous, according to our sensors. The Varians say it is merely the princess's presence." Jake frowned. That was strange. He glanced at Ben, who shrugged. They had come this far. There was no turning back now. "All right," Jake said. "We're going in." Quellen bowed and stepped aside. The massive doors began to open, sliding silently into the walls. Beyond them was darkness, punctuated by small lights that floated in the air like fireflies. Jake's scanner showed the energy readings spiking dramatically. "Captain, maybe we should," Lisa began. But Jake was already moving forward. As the leader of the delegation, protocol demanded he enter first. It was a sign of respect and courage. He stepped across the threshold into the dark chamber. The moment his foot touched the floor inside, everything changed. A brilliant golden light erupted from the center of the room. It was so bright that Jake had to shield his eyes with his arm. He heard shouting behind him, his team calling his name. The light seemed to pulse with warmth and energy, wrapping around him like a living thing. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the light began to fade. Jake slowly lowered his arm, blinking to clear the spots from his vision. The chamber came into focus. It was circular, with high ceilings and walls made of the same glowing white material as the corridors. In the center of the room stood a figure. It was the princess. It had to be. But she looked nothing like the Varians Jake had encountered before. Instead of silver metallic skin, hers was a warm bronze color that seemed to glow softly from within. Her hair was long and dark, flowing past her shoulders in waves that moved as if underwater, even though the air was still. Her eyes were the most striking feature, shifting between colors like looking into a nebula, blues and purples, and hints of gold all swirling together. She wore robes of deep violet that seemed to shimmer and change shade as she moved. On her forehead was a thin crown made of what looked like crystallized light. She was staring at Jake with an expression of complete shock. Behind her, several Varian attendants rushed forward, their black eyes wide with what Jake interpreted as alarm. They spoke rapidly in their language, voices sharp and urgent. The princess held up one hand, stopping them in their tracks. For a long moment, nobody moved. Jake and the princess simply stared at each other across the chamber. He felt something strange, a warmth in his chest that spread outward through his body. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The princess's mouth opened slightly. When she spoke, her voice was clear and musical, but there was anger underneath it, and she spoke in perfect English. "You," she said, her color-shifting eyes locked on his. "You should not be able to do that. No alien species has ever triggered a resonance before." Jake had no idea what she meant. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Behind him, he heard his team entering the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The princess took a step backward, her composure cracking. She looked vulnerable and exposed in a way that made Jake instinctively want to apologize, though he didn't know what he had done wrong. "What's happening?" he finally managed to ask. 18 none. Have with C none. 18 none. The princess closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering her strength. When she opened them again, they had settled on a deep purple color. Everything, she whispered. Everything is happening. The silence in the chamber stretched on. Princess Sarilith pressed her hand against her chest, breathing hard like she had just run a great distance. Her attendants surrounded her, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. One of them, an older Varian with silver skin and elaborate robes, turned to face Jake with barely concealed hostility. "What have you done, human?" the Varian demanded. His translation device gave his words a sharp edge. "I just walked into the room," Jake said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I don't understand what's happening." Dr. Lisa Hayes pushed past Ben Carter, her scanner held out in front of her. The device was beeping frantically, its screen filled with data that scrolled too fast to read. "Captain, her biosignature is fluctuating wildly. I've never seen readings like this." Ben moved to Jake's side, his hand resting on his sidearm. "Not drawing it, but ready." "Is everyone all right?" he asked, his eyes moving between Jake and the princess. The princess held up her hand again, and everyone fell silent. She seemed to be struggling to regain control of herself. Her skin still glowed with that inner light, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. When she finally spoke, her voice was steadier. "I am not harmed," she said. She looked directly at Jake again. "But you have caused something that should be impossible." Jake took a careful step forward. "Princess Sarilith, I presume? I'm Captain Jake Morrison. I apologize if I've offended you somehow." "That wasn't my intention." A strange expression crossed the princess's face. "I know it wasn't your intention. I can feel it. That's the problem." She turned to the older Varian. "High Chancellor Vorix, please explain to the humans what a resonance is." The High Chancellor looked like he had just swallowed something bitter, but he nodded. He stepped forward, his black eyes studying Jake with an intensity that made the captain uncomfortable. "Varian royalty possess abilities beyond those of our common people," Vorix began. His voice was formal, like he was reciting from a textbook. "We can sense not just emotions, but something deeper. We call it soul harmony. It is a connection between beings that transcends physical form, language, and even species." Lisa was taking notes rapidly on her tablet. "Soul harmony? Is that a telepathic bond?" "More than that," Vorix said. "It is a recognition of fundamental compatibility at the deepest level. When two beings of profound soul harmony come near each other, our royalty's true form is revealed involuntarily." He gestured at the princess. "What you see now is her actual appearance, not the diplomatic facade she wore before." Kevin Brooks, the young lieutenant, spoke up from the back. "So Varians can look like this? Why do you usually appear differently?" "Our royalty can alter their appearance to some degree," Vorix explained. "It is a protective measure and a diplomatic tool, but in the presence of a resonance bond, they cannot maintain the disguise." He paused, and his next words carried weight. "In all of Varian recorded history, spanning over 10,000 years, this has happened perhaps 50 times. And never with an alien species." The implications of that statement hung in the air. Jake felt his stomach drop. "So, you're saying that I somehow triggered this resonance thing?" "Yes," Princess Sarilith said quietly. She had moved closer now, though her attendants looked nervous about it. "And I can feel everything from you. Your confusion, your fear, your hope for peace, your worry about your crew. All of it flows into me, like a river." Jake didn't know what to say to that. The idea that this alien princess could sense his emotions was deeply unsettling. But there was something else, something he couldn't quite name. Looking at her, he felt a strange pull, like gravity, but warmer. "I can see this makes you uncomfortable," Sarilith continued. There was an edge to her voice now, anger mixed with something that might have been embarrassment. Imagine how I feel. I have been trained since childhood to control my abilities, to maintain my composure in any situation, and then you walk into the room and shatter everything in an instant. I'm sorry, Jake said, and he meant it. I didn't know this would happen. Of course you didn't, she snapped. Then she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she seemed calmer. I apologize. This is not your fault. You could not have known. She turned to Voryx. We must continue the negotiations. Despite this complication, Voryx looked alarmed. Your Highness, you are compromised. The resonance will affect your judgment. We should postpone until... Until what? Sarilith interrupted. Until the resonance fades? You know it doesn't work that way. Once triggered, it is permanent. She squared her shoulders. We are here to make peace. My people are dying. Human people are dying. I will not let my personal discomfort stand in the way of that. Jake felt a surge of respect for her. Despite her obvious distress, she was putting duty first. He knew something about that. The princess is right, he said. We should proceed. Ben looked at him like he was crazy, but nodded. Lisa was still studying her scanner with a worried expression. The rest of the human delegation looked uncertain, but stayed silent. Very well, Voryx said, though he clearly wasn't happy about it. The Varian attendants set up a large table in the center of the chamber. It was made of a smooth, dark material that reflected the light. Chairs were brought out, though the Varian ones looked different from the human ones, adapted to their slightly different anatomy. As they all took their seats, Jake found himself sitting directly across from Princess Sarilith. He tried not to stare at her, but it was difficult. Her appearance was mesmerizing, especially her eyes, which continued to shift through different colors. Sometimes they were blue like Earth's sky, other times purple like a sunset, and occasionally they flickered with gold. Voryx laid out the basic terms of the negotiation. There would be a ceasefire in all territories. Both sides would withdraw to agreed-upon boundaries. Reparations would be discussed after the basic peace was established. It all sounded reasonable on the surface, but as they talked, Jake noticed something strange. Every time he spoke, Princess Sarilith reacted. Her eyes would widen slightly, or her hand would twitch, or she would draw in a sharp breath. It was like his words physically affected her. During a break in the discussion, Lisa leaned over to whisper to Jake, Captain, I think the resonance is stronger than they're letting on. Watch her when you speak. She's experiencing your emotions directly. Jake glanced at the princess. She was talking quietly with Voryx, but she looked tired. The glow of her skin had dimmed slightly. Is it hurting her? He asked quietly. I don't think so, Lisa said. But it's clearly overwhelming. It's like she's feeling her own emotions, and yours at the same time. That evening, after hours of negotiation, they finally took a longer break. The humans were given quarters on one side of the station, the Varians on the other. Jake stood alone in his room, looking out at the stars through a small window. There was a gentle knock at his door. When he opened it, he was surprised to see Princess Sarilith standing there. She was alone, without her attendants or guards. She looked different in the dimmer light of the corridor, more vulnerable somehow. May I speak with you? She asked. Jake stepped aside to let her in. His heart was pounding, though he couldn't say exactly why. Of course, Your Highness. She entered the room and turned to face him. Her eyes had settled on a soft blue color. You can call me Sira. When we're alone, there's no need for formality. She paused. Crowned fall. End quote. I wanted to apologize for my reaction earlier. You did nothing wrong, and I treated you poorly. You were shocked, Jake said. I understand. Do you? Sira asked. There was a searching quality to her gaze. Can you really understand what it's like to suddenly feel everything that another person feels? To have your carefully constructed defenses stripped away in an instant? Jake thought about it. No, he admitted. I can't. But I can imagine. It must be frightening. Frightening, Sierra repeated. Yes. But also. She trailed off, looking away. There's something else happening. I don't just sense your emotions. I'm starting to see things. Flashes of memory. Images of places I've never been. What kind of images? A blue planet with white clouds, Sarah said softly. Green fields. A yellow sun that feels warm instead of harsh. Faces of people who look like you. She met his eyes again. I'm seeing Earth through your memories. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Is that normal? For the resonance, I mean? I don't know, Sarah admitted. There are so few recorded cases, and none with aliens. But the ancient texts speak of resonance bonds becoming stronger over time, until the two souls can share not just feelings but thoughts and memories. She wrapped her arms around herself. The thought terrifies me. Me too, Jake said honestly. They stood there in silence for a moment. Finally, Sierra spoke again. But there's something beautiful about it too. For the first time, I truly understand humans. Not through reports or intelligence briefings, but from the inside. I feel your love for your planet, your loyalty to your crew, your hope that this war can end. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Through you, I see humanity as they really are. Not monsters or conquerors, but people who are just trying to survive and find their place in the galaxy. We started this war based on a misunderstanding, Jake said. We thought you were attacking us. You thought we were invading your space. I know that now, Sierra said. I can feel the truth of it from you, but my people won't believe me without proof. They've lost too much, sacrificed too many lives. They need more than my word. What do we do? Sarah looked at him for a long moment. I don't know yet, but I think this resonance happened for a reason. Perhaps it's the key to the peace we both seek. Well, the next morning, Jake woke to an urgent message from Ben Carter. There had been an incident during the night. Someone had tried to sabotage the negotiations by planting a device near the conference chamber. Station security had caught the culprit, but it raised serious concerns about who wanted the peace talks to fail. Jake dressed quickly and headed to the security office. Ben was already there, along with several station officials. On a screen, they could see the captured saboteur in a holding cell. He was Varian, his silver skin dull in the harsh lights. He won't say who sent him, Ben said grimly, but he keeps saying the princess has been corrupted by human influence. Jake felt anger flash through him. She's trying to save both our peoples from more bloodshed. How is that corruption? Not everyone wants peace, said Administrator Quellen, the station's leader. There are powerful factions on both sides who profit from war. Military contractors, territorial governors, radical groups who believe compromise is weakness. Have you told the princess? Jake asked. She's being informed now, Quellen replied. Jake left the security office and headed toward the Varian quarters. He knew he probably shouldn't, but something pulled him in that direction. As he walked, he felt a strange sensation in his chest, warm and insistent. It was getting stronger as he moved. He turned a corner and almost ran into Princess Sarah. She was walking quickly, her violet robes flowing behind her. Her attendants struggled to keep up. When she saw Jake, she stopped abruptly. I was coming to find you, she said. Her eyes were flickering between colors rapidly. A sign Jake was learning meant she was agitated. Did you feel it too? Feel what? The pull, Sarah said. Like something drawing me toward you. I was in my quarters when it started. I knew exactly where you were, could feel your direction like a compass pointing north. Jake nodded slowly. I felt something similar. I didn't realize. That's what it was. Voryx appeared behind the princess, looking displeased. Your Highness, this is highly irregular. You should not be seeking out the human captain alone. I didn't seek him out, Forex, Sarah said impatiently. The resonance did. It's getting stronger. She turned back to Jake. I heard about the sabotage attempt. Are you all right? I'm fine. It was nowhere near my quarters. Jake hesitated. But I'm worried about you. If there are Varians who think you've been compromised, you might be in danger from your own people. I can take care of myself, Sarah said, but there was uncertainty in her voice. What concerns me more is that the resonance is changing. Last night, I dreamed your dreams. I saw memories from your childhood. Felt emotions from years before we met. She lowered her voice. Tell me honestly, Captain, are you experiencing anything unusual? Jake considered lying, then remembered that she could sense his emotions anyway. Yes. Sometimes I feel things that aren't mine. Flashes of alien landscapes. Emotions that are too different from my own to be mine. He paused. And I'm starting to understand your language without the translator. Sarah's eyes went wide. That's not supposed to be possible. The resonance is empathic, not linguistic. Maybe it's evolving, Lisa Hayes said from behind them. Jake hadn't heard her approach. She was carrying her scanner and looked excited. I've been monitoring both of you since yesterday. Your neural patterns are synchronizing. It's like your brains are learning to communicate directly. Vorex looked alarmed. This must be stopped. If the resonance becomes this strong, it could damage both of them. Or, Lisa said carefully, it could be exactly what we need to end this war. They moved the discussion to a secure conference room. Jake, Sarah, Lisa, Ben, Vorex, and several Varian advisors gathered around the table. On the screens around them, news feeds showed growing unrest on both sides. Protests against the peace talks were breaking out on Earth and Varian colonies. Military forces were positioning themselves near the borders, ready to resume fighting if negotiations failed. Time is running out, Ben said. Earth's coalition is getting impatient. They want results, or they want us to come home. The Varian Council is the same, Vorex added. They question why the princess was sent instead of military leaders. Some suggest it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Sarah said firmly. My mother sent me because she knew an empath would be necessary to determine if humans could be trusted. She looked at Jake, and through the resonance, I know that they can be. But I need to prove it to my people. Jake leaned forward. What if we used the resonance publicly? If other Varians could somehow experience what you're experiencing through me, they would understand that humans want peace. That would require a ritual called the Cascade of Souls, Vorex said slowly. It's an ancient practice, rarely used, where a royal empath amplifies a resonance bond and broadcasts it to all Varians simultaneously. Can it be done? Lisa asked. Technically, yes, Vorex replied. But it's extremely dangerous. The last 3 princesses who attempted it were left mentally damaged. One died. He looked at Sarah. Your Highness, I cannot recommend this. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Her eyes had settled on a deep purple. If I do nothing, the war continues. More people die. Both human and Varian. If there's even a chance the cascade could bring true peace, I have to try. No, Jake said immediately. I won't let you risk your life for this. Sarah turned to him with a slight smile. You won't let me? Captain Morrison, I am a princess of the Varian Empire. I make my own decisions. The smile faded. But I appreciate your concern. I can feel it through the bond. You genuinely care about my safety. Even though we barely know each other. The resonance has shown me who you are. Sarah interrupted gently. But the caring is still real, even if it came quickly. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Despite only meeting her yesterday, he felt a connection to her that he couldn't explain or deny. The thought of her being hurt made his chest ache. If we're going to do this, Lisa said, pulling them back to the practical. We need to prepare carefully. I'll need to study variant physiology, understand the mechanism of the cascade. We should minimize the risks as much as possible. Over the next 2 days, preparations began. Lisa worked with variant medical experts to understand the ritual. Ben coordinated security with station officials and variant guards. They announced that a major ceremony would take place in the Grand Amphitheater of Calith Prime, broadcast across both empires. Jake spent time with Syrah, learning about variant culture and helping her understand humanity better. The resonance grew stronger each day. They found they could sense each other's location anywhere on the station. Sometimes, when their emotions ran high, they could share thoughts without speaking. One evening, they stood together on an observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. Sarah's attendants waited at a respectful distance. I'm afraid, Syrah admitted quietly. Not of the ritual itself, but of what comes after. If we succeed, everything changes. If we fail. She didn't finish the sentence. We won't fail, Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. You don't know that. Syrah turned to look at him. The cascade will open my mind completely. Every variant in the Empire will experience what I experience through the resonance. They'll feel your emotions, see your memories, understand humanity through your eyes. She paused. But it will also mean you'll be completely vulnerable. Your innermost thoughts and feelings will be broadcast to billions of aliens. Are you prepared for that? Jake hadn't fully considered that aspect. The idea of having his private thoughts exposed was terrifying, but he thought about the soldiers still dying in the war, the families torn apart, the planets scarred by battle. If it means peace, he said. Then yes, I'm prepared. Syrah studied his face. You mean that? I can feel it. She looked back out at the stars. My father died in this war, you know. In one of the first battles. He was leading a defensive fleet when human ships appeared. Both sides were confused, frightened, and opened fire before anyone could talk. Her voice was soft with old pain. I never got to say goodbye. I'm sorry, Jake said. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't anyone's fault, really. Just a tragic series of misunderstandings. She sighed. But his death made peace politically difficult for my mother. The military leaders demanded revenge. The people wanted blood. Sending me here was her way of trying to find another path, but it was risky. And then the resonance happened. Syrah agreed. Perhaps it was fate. Perhaps the universe was telling us there's a better way. She looked at him again. Through you, I've learned that humans aren't so different from us. You love, you fear, you hope, you dream. You want to protect your people, just as I want to protect mine. Jake felt the warmth in his chest that always came when they were close. After this is over, assuming we both survive, what happens to us? To the resonance? I don't know, Syrah said honestly. The bond is permanent. We'll always be connected now. Distance might weaken it slightly, but we'll always sense each other. Always know what the other is feeling. She hesitated. Is that something you can accept? Do I have a choice? No, Syrah said with a small smile. But I'm asking anyway. Jake smiled back. Then yes, I can accept it. Honestly, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. For me either, Syrah admitted. At first, I hated it. I felt exposed, violated. But now, she trailed off, looking uncertain. Now? Jake prompted. Now, I think it might be the most important thing that's ever happened to me, she finished quietly. The next morning, news came that changed everything. A Varian warlord named General Kraeth had declared the peace talks a betrayal. He was gathering forces loyal to him and had issued a statement condemning the princess for being corrupted by the human threat. He's planning to attack the station, Ben said urgently in the emergency meeting. Our intelligence suggests he'll strike during the cascade ceremony. That's when we'll be most vulnerable, Vorik said, his face grim. The princess will be deep in the ritual, unable to defend herself. We need to cancel, Jake said immediately. No, Syrah said firmly. If we cancel now, we prove Kraith right. We show that violence works, that peace can be terrorized away. Her eyes blazed with determination. We proceed as planned. We just need to be ready for him. The grand amphitheater of Calith Prime was massive, capable of holding thousands. It was circular, with rows of seats rising up toward a domed ceiling made of transparent material that showed the stars beyond. In the center was a raised platform where the cascade ceremony would take place. Ben Carter stood near the main entrance with his security team, checking weapons and reviewing defensive positions. Station security forces were positioned at every entrance, and Varian guards protected the platform itself. If General Kraith attacked, they would be ready. I don't like this, Ben muttered to Jake. We're sitting ducks in here. One well-placed explosive could take out everyone. That's why we have to make sure he doesn't get that far, Jake replied. He was wearing ceremonial robes that felt strange and restrictive. Lisa had insisted they were necessary for the ritual. On the platform, Princess Syrah stood with several Varian mystics who would assist with the cascade. She wore robes of pure white that seemed to glow with inner light. Her hair was unbound, flowing down her back. Even from a distance, Jake could feel her nervousness through the bond. Captain Morrison? Vorix approached, his expression grave. There is still time to stop this. The princess is determined. But as her advisor, I must speak against it. The danger is too great. She's made her choice, Jake said, and I support it. You would support anything she does, Vorix said sharply. The resonance has clouded your judgment. Maybe, Jake admitted. Or maybe it's given me clarity. All I know is that this war needs to end, and she's brave enough to risk everything to make that happen. Vorix studied him for a moment. I have spent my life serving the royal family. I have advised 3 generations of emperors and empresses. Never have I seen a resonance this strong, this fast. He paused. If you survive this day, you will be bound to her forever. Are you truly prepared for what that means? I'm beginning to understand it, Jake said. The amphitheater was filling up now. Diplomats and observers from dozens of species took their seats. Cameras were positioned to broadcast the ceremony across both empires. Billions would be watching. Jake could feel the weight of all those eyes, all those expectations. Lisa Hayes appeared at his side, her scanner in hand as always. I've been monitoring the princess's vital signs. She's stable for now, but once the cascade begins, things could change rapidly. She looked at Jake. You know you'll be at the center of this, right? The resonance flows through you. When she amplifies it, everyone will experience what you're feeling. I know, Jake said quietly. So no pressure or anything. Lisa tried to joke, but her worry was clear. Just try to think peaceful thoughts. Focus on why we're here, what we hope to achieve. The ceremony was about to begin. Jake made his way to the platform, his heart pounding. Syrah watched him approach, her color-shifting eyes locked on his. When he reached her, she took his hand. The moment their skin touched, the warmth in his chest blazed brighter. Are you ready? She asked softly. No, Jake said honestly. But let's do it anyway. Syrah smiled, a real smile that made her whole face light up. That's very human of you. The lead mystic, an ancient Varian with skin that had faded to a pale silver, stepped forward. He raised his hands, and the crowd fell silent. We gather here today to witness something unprecedented, the mystic said, his voice amplified across the amphitheater. A resonance bond between species, a bridge between souls that should not exist, but does. Through this bond, we will share truth. Through truth, we may find peace. He began chanting in ancient Varian. The other mystics joined in, their voices creating a harmony that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. Syrah closed her eyes, still holding Jake's hand. He felt energy building around them, like electricity before a storm. Then the cascade began. Light erupted from Syrah, But this time, it was different from before. Instead of golden, it was every color imaginable. Swirling and dancing around them, Jake felt something in his mind open up, like a door he hadn't known was there. Suddenly, he wasn't just feeling his own emotions. He was feeling everything Sarah felt. Her fear, her determination, her hope, her affection for him. Still new and confusing but undeniably real. And beneath it all, a deep well of grief for her father, for all those lost in the war, for the suffering of both their peoples. The light expanded outward, filling the amphitheater, then continuing beyond it. Jake knew somehow that it was reaching across space, touching every Varian mind in the Empire, and through him, they were experiencing humanity. He thought of Earth, his home, blue oceans and green forests, the sound of rain on windows, the taste of coffee in the morning, the feeling of grass under bare feet, all the small, mundane things that made life beautiful. He thought of his crew, his friends, Ben's loyalty, Lisa's curiosity, Kevin's optimism, the way humans took care of each other, even strangers, the capacity for kindness that existed alongside the capacity for cruelty. He thought of war, the friends he had lost in battle, the nightmares that still haunted him, the moral weight of every order he had given that might have led to someone's death, the desperate wish that it could all just stop. And he thought of hope, the belief that different species could coexist, that understanding could overcome fear, that peace was possible if people were brave enough to reach for it. Through the bond, he felt Sarah amplifying these thoughts and emotions, broadcasting them to her people. But she was also sending her own experiences, her childhood on the Varian homeworld, the beauty of Varian art and music, the depth of Varian philosophy, the love her people had for their families, their culture, their way of life. Two different species, two different worlds, but underneath it all, the same fundamental desires: safety, happiness, a future for their children, a chance to live without fear. The amphitheater had gone completely silent. Everyone was caught up in the shared experience. Humans and aliens alike. Jake could feel tears on his face, though he wasn't sure if they were from his emotions or Sarah's or both mixed together. Then alarms started blaring. The cascade shattered. Jake's eyes snapped open, just as an explosion rocked the amphitheater. The transparent dome above cracked, and air began rushing out. Emergency shields activated, sealing the breach, but chaos had erupted. People were screaming, running for exits. "It's Kraith!" Ben shouted over the noise. "He's breached the station defenses." More explosions followed. Varian soldiers in unfamiliar armor burst into the amphitheater, weapons firing. They wore symbols that marked them as loyal to the rogue general. Jake dove for cover, pulling Sarah with him. "We need to get you out of here," he yelled. But Sarah was barely conscious. The interrupted cascade had taken a severe toll on her. She slumped against him, her skin flickering between her true form and the silver appearance of regular Varians. The mystics rushed to help her, chanting healing prayers. Ben and the security forces engaged Kraith's soldiers. The amphitheater became a battleground, energy weapons firing in all directions. Jake drew his sidearm and returned fire, trying to protect Sarah and the mystics. Then he saw him, General Kraith himself, striding into the amphitheater with a squad of elite soldiers. He was larger than most Varians, his silver skin marked with scars from countless battles, his black eyes focused on the platform where Sarah lay vulnerable. "The corrupted princess must die!" Kraith roared in Varian. Jake didn't need a translator to understand the words. The resonance had changed him. Just as Lisa said, he knew the language now, felt it in his bones. Jake stepped in front of Sarah, his weapon aimed at Kraith. "You'll have to go through me first." Kraith laughed, a harsh sound. "A human defending our princess. This is exactly the corruption I warned about." He raised his own weapon. You have poisoned her mind with your alien thoughts. She is no longer fit to rule. She's trying to save both our peoples, Jake shouted back. The cascade showed the truth. Humans and Varians aren't enemies. We're just afraid of each other. Fear is wisdom, Kraith snarled. Your kind will consume the galaxy if we don't stop you. I will not let a foolish girl's infatuation with a human destroy everything we've built. The general fired. Jake dove aside, the energy bolt missing him by inches. He returned fire, but Kraith's shields absorbed the shot. The general's soldiers advanced, and Jake knew he couldn't hold them all off alone. Then something unexpected happened. Varian guards who had been standing neutral suddenly moved to defend the platform, and human security forces that had been scattered throughout the crowd rallied together. Ben appeared at Jake's side, firing steadily at the advancing soldiers. The cascade worked, Ben said grimly. Some of Kraith's own soldiers are refusing to fight. They felt what we felt. It was true. Jake could see confusion in the ranks of Kraith's forces. Some had lowered their weapons. Others were arguing with their officers. The shared experience of the cascade had affected them, made them question their orders. But Kraith himself was unmoved. He pressed forward, his focus entirely on Sarah. Jake realized with horror that the general was too close, almost to the platform. There wasn't time to stop him. Sarah stirred behind Jake, her eyes opening. She saw Kraith approaching and tried to rise, but she was too weak. The cascade had drained her completely. Jake stood between them, knowing his body was the only shield she had. Kraith aimed his weapon directly at Jake's chest. Move aside, human. This doesn't concern you. Everything about her concerns me, Jake said. Through the bond, he could feel Syrah's fear, her desperation. She was trying to gather energy for one last defense, but there was nothing left. Then you die with her, Kraith said. But before he could fire, Jake felt something surge through him. It was the resonance, but different now. Not just Syrah's power, but something they created together. The bond had changed during the cascade, deepened beyond what anyone thought possible. Light exploded from Jake's hands. Pure white energy that he had no idea how to control. It slammed into Kraith's shields, shattering them. The general stumbled backward, his black eyes wide with shock. Impossible, Kraith breathed. Humans don't have psychic abilities. I didn't, Jake said, equally shocked. But maybe the resonance changed that. Around the amphitheater, the fighting had stopped. Everyone was staring at Jake, and the energy still crackling around his hands. He had no idea what he had just done, or how to do it again. Syrah's hand touched his back, and the energy steadied. Together, she whispered. The bond goes both ways now. I gave you my power. You gave me your strength. Kraith looked around at his soldiers, many of whom were now openly refusing to fight. He saw the humans and Varians standing together, defending the platform. He understood that he had lost. This isn't over. The general snarled. There are millions who think like me. You've won today. But the Empire will never accept a princess who has bonded with a human. Then we'll change the Empire, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. She stood with Jake's help, facing Kraith without fear. The cascade reached every Varian mind. They felt the truth. You can't lie to them anymore. Station security forces arrived in force, surrounding Kraith and his remaining loyal soldiers. The general was forced to surrender. Though his eyes promised revenge as he was led away, the amphitheater was damaged, smoke rising from multiple fires. Medical teams rushed in to help the wounded. But despite the chaos, Jake felt hope rising in his chest. The cascade had worked, even if it was interrupted. Billions had felt what he and Syrah shared. The truth was out there now, impossible to deny. 3 days after the attack, Jake stood in a medical bay watching doctors examine Princess Syrah. The cascade had taken a heavy toll on her body and mind. Her skin still flickered occasionally between her true form and her silver appearance. The doctors said she was stable, but the bond had been permanently altered by what happened during the ritual. She'll recover fully, Lisa Hayes said, reading the medical reports. But the resonance has changed. It's not just empathic anymore. You two are connected on every level now. Mental, emotional, even physical to some degree. Jake rubbed his temples. He had a headache that wasn't quite his own, an echo of Syrah's pain. What does that mean exactly? It means you'll always know where she is, what she's feeling, even some of what she's thinking, Lisa explained. And she'll know the same about you. The bond is unbreakable now. Distance might make it quieter, but it will never go away. Die. Like the scent, and the power I used against Kraith? Lisa shook her head in wonder. That shouldn't be possible. Humans don't have psychic abilities, but the resonance has literally changed your brain structure. You're developing neural pathways that mirror Varian empaths. She paused. You're becoming something new. Not human. Not Varian. But something in between. Jake wasn't sure how he felt about that. But when he looked at Syrah, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, he knew he wouldn't change anything that had happened. The political aftermath of the cascade was complex. Reports came in from across both empires showing dramatic shifts in public opinion. Varians who had experienced the shared emotions during the ritual were speaking out for peace. Protests against the war had erupted on dozens of worlds. General Kraith's attack had backfired spectacularly. His soldiers, affected by the cascade before they attacked, had been reluctant fighters. Many surrendered immediately after he was captured. His supporters were melting away as more Varians came forward to say they had felt the truth of human peaceful intentions through the bond. On the fourth day, something remarkable happened. The Varian Empress herself arrived at Calith Prime. Her ship was massive, dwarfing every other vessel docked at the station. When she emerged, Jake saw where Syrah got her appearance. The Empress's true form was stunning, her skin glowing like captured starlight, her eyes swirling with deep purples and golds. Ben, Lisa, and the rest of the human delegation met her in the main conference hall. The Empress studied Jake with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "So you are the human who has bonded with my daughter," she said. Her voice was musical, like Sarah's, but deeper with age and authority. "Captain Jake Morrison." "Captain Jake Morrison." Jake bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I'm honored to meet you. Are you?" The Empress moved closer. "My daughter's bond has made peace possible, but it has also changed her forever. She can never return to what she was. As her mother, I am uncertain whether to thank you or curse you." "Mother." Syrah's voice came from the doorway. She had finally recovered enough to leave the medical bay. She walked slowly but steadily to Jake's side. "Don't blame him. The resonance was not his choice or mine. It simply happened." The Empress looked between them, her expression unreadable. "I felt the cascade, along with all my people. I experienced your connection, daughter. I saw through the human's eyes and felt through his heart." She paused. "He genuinely cares for you. Daughter, his heart." She paused. "I know," Syrah said softly. "And you care for him." "Yes," the Empress sighed. "When I sent you here, I hoped you would sense whether humans could be trusted. I never imagined this would happen." She turned to address everyone in the room. "And the Empress." She turned to address everyone in the room. "But the universe has spoken through this bond. We cannot ignore what billions of Varians felt during the cascade. Peace must come." Over the following weeks, formal treaties were drafted and signed. The war ended not with a single dramatic moment, but with thousands of small steps. Ceasefires held. Borders were established. Prisoners were exchanged. Reparations were discussed. Cultural exchanges began almost immediately. Human artists traveled to Varian worlds. Varian scientists visited Earth. Both sides were amazed by what they learned from each other. The differences that had seemed so threatening now became sources of fascination. Jake and Sira became symbols of this new relationship. Wherever they went together, crowds gathered. Some were supportive, celebrating the bond that had ended the war. Others were hostile, viewing them as traitors to their respective species. But they faced both reactions together, the resonance keeping them strong. One evening, Jake and Sarah walked through the gardens of Calith Prime. The station had been repaired after Kraith's attack, and the gardens were peaceful now. Alien plants from 100 worlds grew in careful arrangements, creating a tapestry of colors and scents. "I've been offered a position," Sira said as they walked. "Earth's government wants me to serve as an ambassador. They think having a Varian princess working directly with humans would help solidify the peace." "What did you say?" "I told them I would consider it." She looked at him. "But only if you come with me. I can't imagine doing this without you." Jake smiled. "The feeling is mutual. Though I'm not sure what use a military captain is. In peacetime. There. And peacetime. You're more than a military captain now," Sira said. "The bond has changed you, given you abilities that make you unique. You understand both species in ways no one else can." She paused. "My mother has a proposal. She wants to commission a new ship, crewed by both humans and Varians, an exploration vessel that would travel to unexplored regions, representing our alliance to the galaxy. And she wants us to serve on it? She wants you to command it," Sira corrected. "With me as the diplomatic officer. A joint mission, showing the galaxy that our two species can work together." Jake thought about it. He had spent 3 years fighting a war. The idea of exploring, instead of destroying, was appealing. "What would we call this ship?" "The Unity," Sira said. "A name that represents what we've achieved." "I like it." They stopped at a fountain where water flowed in defiance of the station's artificial gravity, creating floating spheres that caught the light. Sarah reached out and touched one of the spheres, sending it spinning. "Are you afraid?" she asked quietly. "Of what we've become? Of being bonded to me forever?" Jake considered the question honestly. "Sometimes. It's strange knowing someone else can feel everything I feel. Know my thoughts before I speak them." He turned to face her. "But mostly, I'm grateful. The bond might have started as an accident, but it gave us something precious. Understanding. Connection. A chance to see beyond our own perspectives." "I feel the same way," Sira said. "At first, I hated how exposed it made me. But now..." She trailed off, her eyes settling on a soft blue. "Now I can't imagine my life without this connection to you." They stood close. The bond between them, a tangible warmth. Through it, Jake could feel Sira's affection, her hope for the future, her determination to make their sacrifice meaningful. "The doctors say the bond will continue to evolve," Sira said. "We might develop even stronger abilities as time goes on. No one knows what we'll become." End quote. "Then we'll figure it out together," Jake said simply. A month later, the Unity launched from a joint shipyard orbiting a neutral moon. The ship was beautiful, incorporating design elements from both human and Varian engineering. Its hull was sleek and silver, with flowing lines that caught the light. Inside, human and Varian crew members worked side by side, learning each other's languages and customs. Commander Ben Carter had agreed to serve as first officer. Dr. Lisa Hayes was the chief science officer, thrilled at the prospect of exploring unknown space. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks managed communications. From the Varian side, Tyron, Sarah's former captain of the guard, served as security chief. Other specialists from both species filled the crew. On the bridge, Jake sat in the captain's chair with Sira at the diplomatic station beside him. Through the main viewport, they could see representatives from both empires gathered to watch the launch. The Varian Empress was there, along with Earth's coalition leaders. "All systems ready, Captain," Ben reported from his station. Communications are clear, Kevin added. Jake looked at Sierra, who nodded. Through the bond, he felt her excitement mixing with his own. This was a new beginning. Not just for them, but for both their peoples. Open a channel, Jake ordered. Kevin pressed controls. Channel open, sir. Jake stood, Sierra rising beside him. To the people of Earth and the Varian Empire, he began. 3 years ago, our peoples met in violence and misunderstanding. Today, we stand united. The unity represents more than a ship. It represents a promise that different species can work together, can understand each other, can build something better than what we had before. Sierra spoke next, her voice clear and strong. The bond that formed between Captain Morrison and myself was unexpected, but it showed us a truth we all needed to see. We are not so different. Beneath our various forms, we all feel the same hopes and fears. We all want safety for our families, futures for our children, and a chance to live without war. They spoke in unison now, their voices harmonizing in a way that only the resonance made possible. We don't know what we'll find in the unexplored regions, but whatever we discover, we'll face it together, not as humans or Varians, but as partners, as friends, as proof that understanding can overcome any difference. The channel closed. Ben began the launch sequence. The Unity's engines hummed to life, that unique sound of combined technology from two species working in harmony. Take us out, Jake ordered. The ship moved away from the moon, gathering speed. Behind them, the representatives of both empires watched until the Unity was just a point of light among the stars. Ahead lay infinite space, full of unknowns and possibilities. On the bridge, Jake felt Sierra's hand slip into his. Through the bond, he sensed her thoughts clearly. They were thinking the same thing, as they often did now. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Two souls, two species, bound by a resonance that had changed the fate of empires. The war was over. The future was beginning. As the Unity jumped into faster-than-light travel, the stars stretched into lines of light around them. Jake smiled, squeezing Sierra's hand gently. Ready for this? He asked. With you? Sarah replied, her color-shifting eyes bright with excitement. Always. The ship carried them forward into the unknown. A vessel of peace and exploration. Proof that even the most unlikely connections could change everything. Behind them, two empires worked to build a lasting alliance. Ahead, the galaxy waited to be discovered. The resonance that had started as an accident, that had revealed a princess's true form and exposed a human captain's deepest emotions, had become something greater than either of them could have imagined. It had become hope itself, shining bright enough to light the way forward for both their peoples. And as the Unity disappeared into the depths of space, that hope went with it. Carried by two souls who had learned that understanding transcends all boundaries, and that true connection knows no limits. The journey was just beginning.